Grace and peace be unto you, my brothers and sisters in Christ. I join in with hundreds of others in celebrating with you a season of giving thanks and a reason for thanksgiving as we give thanks for 150 years of Franklinton Center at Bricks. Please excuse my voice and what sounds like I have a cold. Since my stroke, my speech has been challenged. I hope my message comes through as a message of giving thanks. I give thanks during this season that God allowed me to live to see this celebration take place. I give thanks for the work of Franklinton for many reasons. I've been a part of your history for 50 of your 150 years. 50 years ago when I became a part of the United Church of Christ, Dr. Arthur Gray, who oversaw the merger of the Congregational Church of New England and the Christian Church of the South to become the Congregational Christian Church, sat me down and told me about the struggle we had making sure that the churches out of the old Christian church, or as Dr. Yvonne Duck reminds us, the Afro-Christian tradition, were treated fairly and with equity, growing out of a history of the Franklinton Christian College, a school set up right after slavery, I think it was 1871, for the former enslaved Africans, make sure that we got equal opportunity, along with the Howard University, the Hampton University, the Dillard, the Fisk, and the schools started by Congregationalists. Dr. Gray filled me in on the fight between the North and the South, and what he did not give me in terms of detail. Dr. Charles Cobb, formerly CEO of the Commission for Racial Justice, filled in all the blanks. I became a member of CRJ a year after coming into the United Church of Christ. And it was while I was a member of the Commission that I fell in love with the churches of the South, that I fell in love with the Christian church, that I fell in love with the tradition of black Christians who were not ashamed of their Africanity nor their Christianity, who held their tradition, who valued education, and valued the traditions handed down by the elders like Purcell Alston and his parents, G. Wesley Rainey and his parents and grandparents. Ever since I found out that some northern UCC folk had a problem with Christian worship from the Christian church tradition, I became one of Franklinton Center's biggest cheerleaders, rooting for your success and thanking God for the way you've stayed the course and been responsible for the fight for liberation through education, closing health gap inequities, guaranteeing food security, wealth gap, and all the mainline churches' social justice issues. I am proud to be a part of Franklinton Center. Marvin and I used to fight all the time. I will not call his last name. I know you know his last name. He was the president of Mrs. J, and he's from North Carolina, so he is a homegrown boy. I'm an outsider, I know, but I'm an outsider who stands with you 100% as you continue to produce Yvonne Delk, Priscilla Austin, and countless others. I was trying to think of the name of my friend who used to meet me at the Raleigh airport when I would come to North Carolina and then drive forever getting down to Franklinton Center. I think my most recent trip to Franklinton Center was celebrating one of your anniversaries and celebrating Yvonne Delk's 75th year of ministry and celebrating her being the first African American woman ordained in the United Church of Christ. I thank God and give thanks to God for Yvonne and for all that she has done and continues to do. I thank God for the next generation. I call them warriors like Tracy Blackman, Lamar, Ava Carruthers. My heart hurts that we lost some of our churches out of the Southern Conference over the LGBTQ issue. Because for me the question remains, does God love all of God's children or just some of God's children? As a parent, I have to say that God loves all of God's children. And I thank God during this season of giving thanks for Franklinton Center, staying on the square, staying on the wall, leading the fight for justice and liberation for all of God's children. Congratulations on your 150 years of ministry. Congratulations for being like Nehemiah and staying on the wall, not backing down or stepping down because of naysayers, shade throwers, and folk who don't see how dope you are. I know how dope you are. That's why I support you 150%. Congratulations. I give thanks to God for being a part of this team. I give thanks to God for your accepting me as a part of your team. And I wish you 150 years more of fighting for justice and for liberation. God bless you during this season of giving thanks.
God, this day and every day, I want to be my Sunday's best.
Pulled in the parking lot, expect
And one of the pieces from the song talks about, look at my life, I'm destined for greater, and I'm dressed up in my Sunday's best. You know, we get sharp for Sunday, and we are so excited about Sundays. We're getting with our family, we're getting the word, we're getting some good food, and our best times are on Sunday. And I just wanted to be able to put on the full armor of God to be able to continue to feel that way throughout the week. And so I was like, you know, what kind of song, what kind of words can you give me that will help me have this feeling whenever I play the song, or someone else, when you're going through a week. And I have so many songs that you'll listen to and you'll say, man, it's just a good song that makes me feel good or reminds me how good God is. And you know, we put on so many things. We put on our depression, we put on our frustration, we put on our chaos, we put on the confusion of the world. And what we need to do is put on our Sunday's best, God's armor, his love, his protection, his faithfulness. And this is what the song is supposed to be pouring into you, how good God is. Because regardless of what has happened to us, God has kept us here. And he's allowed us to experience some things, and he's allowed us to do some things and give us some opportunities. And that favor has kept us and continue to grow us as a family and as a person. There's so many things that we deal with. And so that Sunday's best just came from a spirit of wanting to be able to cover myself in God's love, my family, my faith, and all the good food, all the good feelings that come with your Sunday's best is where it derives from. So I'm just so thankful that you guys can be a part of this with me. I'm so excited about the opportunity, and I thank you for your support and your love. I love you all so much. Thank you.
Greetings in the name of our loving and always justice-seeking and yearning God. I'm David Taylor, one of the pastors at the First Church of Christ Congregational United Church of Christ of Glastonbury, Connecticut. And I greet you from the meeting house of this beloved community of faith, which was established in 1693 on the eastern banks of the majestic Connecticut River. And I extend the heartfelt best wishes from this congregation to all who love Franklinton Center at Bricks. It is our joy and our privilege to share in this celebration of Franklinton Center's 150 years of prophetic witness to God's vision of justice and shalom. Celebrating history can be such an important time to reflect on the struggles for justice in our past, to rejoice in our present call to work together on the critical issues before us, and to renew our commitment to move forward into the future with vision, hope, endurance, and love. Here at First Church, our theme for this current church year is working for justice, peace, and love for all of God's children. As I look out the windows of this sacred place of worship, I see our Micah house and chapel next door. 5 years ago, we restored and expanded this house built in 1714 to create a chapel, and we dedicated it to the prophet Micah's compelling words to people of faith, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. In many ways, I think the Micah Chapel is now our Franklinton Center, a place which will be a permanent and lasting reminder of our constant call to be about the work of seeking God's justice. Inside and outside the chapel, the words of Micah chapter 6, verse 8 are chiseled in slabs of New England granite, with the expectation that these words will continue to inspire faithful generations for decades, if not centuries, to come. In the renovation of that house, a hidden closet compartment was discovered, which is speculated to be another station in our town on the Underground Railroad. You see, the knowledge of our past can truly be a stepping stone in the ongoing journey to reflect, to rejoice, and to renew our commitment to hold fast in the struggle for justice for all of God's children. It was about 40 years ago that I was first at Franklinton Center while working at the United Church of Christ Office for Church and Society, when our inspiring leader was Yvonne Delk. Franklinton Center was a sacred place for us to engage folk from around the region to participate in the justice work of our beloved United Church of Christ. The passion for racial and social justice has not left my heart and soul, and it has been a privilege to personally support the prophetic ministry of Franklinton Center and for this church to also offer its financial resources to ensure the ongoing work of this historic center for justice, peace, and reconciliation. So it is now my privilege to invite you and the communities of which you are a part to join First Church of Christ in Glastonbury, Connecticut, in walking hand in hand with Franklinton Center at Bricks as it continues its prophetic ministry of justice and peace, hope and love. All thanks and praise be to our good and gracious God.
Hello, I'm Art Cribbs, pastor of Little River United Church of Christ in Annandale, Virginia. I am so honored to have this opportunity to say a word about Franklinton Center at Bricks. For more than 30 years, I have been fortunate to spend time on that sacred campus. Franklinton Center at Bricks began as part of a slave plantation, but over the years, it has not only been reformed, but it has been reinstitutionalized as a community of hope, a community of vision, a community of nourishment and reinvigoration. My opportunity to spend time at Franklinton Center has helped to give me a greater appreciation, not only for the great outdoors, but what happens indoors when people come together and begin to explore the possibilities that they share together. I am so grateful for this opportunity to say to you, Franklinton Center is alive and well, even through all the challenges of time, events, and the pandemic. Franklinton Center continues to provide services to the local community and hospitality to people from all over the world. I'd like to encourage you to not only know more about Franklinton Center, but to use your resources to keep the mission of Franklinton Center alive, strong, and going forward. Whatever you can do is greatly appreciated. I live with the memories of experiences at Franklinton Center that began to help give greater foundation and searing the imagination of the work that I do as a pastor and a community activist. You never know what happens when you enter sacred ground and have an experience beyond your imagination. Franklinton Center is such a place. Whatever you can do, dig deep and give generously. And thank you for your support.
Hi, I'm Reverend Ellie Mendez Angulo, and I am honored to serve as Franklinton Center at Bricks Program Manager. I bring you greetings on behalf of Franklinton Center at Bricks, her staff, her board of trustees, her contractors, and all who walk on this sacred soil. We welcome you home. We say it from deep within our hearts, welcome home. But today we welcome you home with a little bit of a different purpose. We reach out to you with a reminder that social justice, in all the ways justice exists, requires a lot. And sometimes it requires a reminder that social justice takes intentionality, it takes teamwork, it takes a heart for the work, it takes a commitment, it takes a purpose, it takes people, and it takes resources that include money. And so we invite you to go on our website, franklintoncenteratbricks.org, click on the green Give button and give freely, give of your heart, give of your intentions, give in prayer, give because you believe in the work that we do. We thank you for that. We thank you for trusting us for another 150 years of service. Thank you.
I am a witness.
Yes, I am a witness.
Yes, I am a witness to Franklinton Center at Brooks.
I am a witness.
Am a witness. I am a witness. I am.
I am a witness. I am a witness to the holiness. I am a witness to the history. I am a witness to the hospitality that is Franklinton Center at Brooks. I am a witness to the power of the Holy Spirit enter into my soul since the very first time I stepped onto this sacred ground, almost 30 years ago. It didn't happen just then. It happens every time I come back home to visit. A sense of soul strength enters my being every single time. I am a witness to the rich history of this holy ground, made holy by the presence of the ancestors who occupied this plantation over 100 years ago. In the last 30 years, I have studied and learned more about the pain and the suffering, and more about the resilience and renewal of former slaves who were students, landowners, and community members. I bring forth the name of Miss Princella Garrett, whose name was not recorded in the U.S. Census until 1890, when she was in her elder years. I am a witness to the hospitality that is embodied at Franklinton Center at Brooks. When a descendant of the plantation owners, the Garretts, came to the center, he was welcomed with open arms. When staff says welcome home, they mean it. I'm honored to be welcomed as one of the family, and no matter how near or far away I am, I will always cherish that blessing. Yes, I am a witness.
I am a witness to the importance of the impact that Franklinton Center has made on building and nurturing a sense of belonging and community for the success of our children, our future generation, and our current generations of children. I'm a witness.
I've spent many days working there at Franklin Center. In fact, when I was the head of the United Church of Christ Commission for Racial Justice, we moved our Raleigh office to Franklin Center because I wanted to make sure that we sustained the property. It's a beautiful campus. The bricks at some of the buildings at Franklin Center were handmade by some of the former students, some of the former residents of the community. It's an agricultural community, it's a rural community, but it's vibrant in terms of the history, particularly of the Afro-Christian tradition in the United Church of Christ. Franklin Center has been a place for advocacy, for theological reflection, for the edification of what it means to engage in social justice. You know, I think that if there was one institution in the whole of the United Church of Christ that practices and embodies our statement of faith, it is Franklin Center.
My experience with the Franklinton Center is personal. I've lived in the region for some 4 decades, and I'm intimately familiar with the disparities and the challenges that the most vulnerable Black and brown families in our region face. And of course, those challenges include food shortages. They include having the poorest health outcomes in the state among low-income families. They include persistent underemployment and lack of employment and lack of access to high-speed internet. So true to the center's great legacy and heritage, and even understanding the resilience the center has demonstrated in the harshest of times, Franklinton Center today, to me, means continuing to strive and live up to that great legacy, and continuing to prepare individuals and congregations and community leaders to advance programs of social, racial, and economic justice.
I talked about that sense of belonging and community, and really a sense of safety. That's so important to our children today. the educators refer to it as social emotional learning. We know that if children don't feel safe, if they don't feel like they belong or they're part of a community, then the learning is not going to be as successful and effective as it should be. So what I learned at Franklinton Center, this sense of belonging and the importance of community, I take that off the grounds of Franklinton Center, if you will, and apply it to my Freedom Schools program, because we need to take these great feelings that we have when we hit the grounds of Franklinton Center and apply them to the world that we live in, the wounded, the dying world that we live in. So that informs the work that I do as executive director of the Freedom School program. We take children, 50 children every year over a 6-week period, 5 days a week, 7 hours a day. And we teach them, we model for them our culture, our beliefs, what we believe, and then we set high expectations for them. We give them a voice and we say, take your voice and then go out into the world and make an impact. And so that's how the National Freedom Schools program and the work I do there has been impacted by my experiences at Franklinton Center.
The late Purcell Austin. Purcell was, the director, of the Convention of Christian Education Director or Minister for the Convention of the South. And he would officiate at the services, the communion service. And so one occasion, when I was 15, I went up, you had to go up, you had to kneel and so forth. I went up and knelt. And Purcell said, Henry, just in case you think that you've gotten away this week, now's the time for you to repent. And at that moment, I had a sense that the Lord was calling me. And it's amazing, 2 years later, it was Purcell who was working with, ministering with the United Church Board for Homeland Ministries, who, unbeknownst to me, supplied an $800 scholarship for me to go to undergrad school. And that was a lifesaver.
My mom always had these dichos in Spanish. And one of the things she always said to us is, no se sabe a dónde vas sin saber de dónde vienes. Translated, it means you do not know where you're going unless you know where you've been. That is the way I would describe it. The storytelling, the history, the museum, all of that is an opening and opportunity for us not to only connect with the ancestors, but to really pay it forward, if you will, for the next generation and the generation who follows them. The power of that is again, the strength and the soul of Franklinton Center.
As a member of the Council of Elders of Franklinton Center, I am so pleased to be a witness. And it's been so important to witness in these days that we've been moving through. This has been one of the most unusual times in my history, and I'm into my 80s. But to have to move through what we've been moving through with the amount of deaths and illness and suffering and injustices all coming together that has caused us to have to quarantine and go into isolation. This has been an unbelievable time. And it's a time in which we've had to ask ourselves the question, what really matters? For me, it's always been three things. When I'm going through a tough time, it's family, it's my faith, and it's hope. And place for me that reveals this as much as any other place is Franklinton Center. It has always been for me a place of faith, a place of family, and a place of hope. And in it is a story of a people who found a way to survive in the midst of the most difficult times that we can imagine. I'm able to have hope now because I can connect to those mamas and fathers who came right up out of slavery over 100 years ago and invested everything they had into creating institutions that would live on long after them. They founded churches, and many of those churches still exist today. They founded a school, and many of the folk who attended those schools were able to offer their skills to help the community around them and to keep all of us pressing on. And even in the midst of all, they were able to keep a connection to Africa and to the Caribbean in support systems. In the midst of everything, they invested all that they had in order that we could not only survive, but keep pressing on. They give us an example of moving through one pandemic after another. I think about the fact that in the 30s, when we were in a depression, that it was on these sacred grounds that the idea kept emerging for a rural life school where farmers in the area didn't have to be sharecroppers who was working for somebody else, but could be owners of the land and invest their own resources and building in that particular faith place and for that community. In the midst of hard times, we kept pressing on. And I can imagine that in the midst of those moments when we were struggling hard with segregation and separatism and fighting, Franklinton Center became home. It was home for all of those men and women who were organizing and strategizing for justice. It was home for all of us who were preparing ourselves for ministries in the church. It was that place that we could draw strength from for the vocation that we were being called to. And now in this pandemic, when we're going through, it's now a place of faith, family, and it's a place of hope. Franklinton Center today has become a central place for community. We got Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi is so important to the men and women who now have to depend on, and all of the folk in the community that have to depend on technology in order to connect. So with broadband, they can come up on our grounds and be able to talk to their doctors or to be able to worship or even to be able to help their kids go to school. But in addition to that, we're in partnership with the school system so that we can offer food from our land at this particular time. Franklinton Center has been a place for centuries that has offered hope, that has offered family, and has offered faith that became the anchors for us to keep pressing on in difficult times. And so I'm pleased to be a witness. I started out there when I was just 7 years of age, and it has been a major impact on my life ever since. And so I join my witness along with all of the other voices that you will hear today. This is sacred ground. This is historical ground. This is community ground. And this is liberation ground, where we continue drawing strength from those who have come after us, before us, and for those who are struggling now, and building for those who will come after us, a place where there always will be faith and family and hope. So my hope is that for those of you who have an opportunity to see this video, that you will join us, that you will be a part of the circle of persons who will offer testimony to Franklinton Center. Testimony in the following ways. I'm hoping that you'll be able to come on these grounds and draw strength from it when the virus is no longer a part of us. I'm hoping that you will use it for events in your life. Churches will come to be on these sacred grounds. Families will come and hold reunions, that we will come and just connect to the spirit and the soil of so many who have come before us. And of course, we hope you will join us financially. I'm a witness. My hope is that you will be a witness too.
A sacred space filled with a rich treasure trove of history, sacred stories, stories of community, stories that chronicle the experiences of African Americans from slavery until today. I have witnessed in the archives that are not just in Franklinton Center, but in repositories around the country, stories of early Christians, men and women of faith who came together and gave the best of what they had to build a community, to empower people, to nourish young children, to inspire hope. And there at Franklinton Center, we have a walking space that is available to today's generations and future generations to explore a story of a powerful heritage of faith, not just of African Americans, but faith of Native people, faith of European Americans, people of various ethnic diversities who came together inspired by a deep commitment to love, empowerment, and hope. I'm a witness to Franklinton Center as a place of transformation, a place of healing, restoration, renewal, a place where one could go and explore their own personal histories, their family stories. There at Franklinton Center, you can walk the grounds where an original plantation was there, and you can trace the descendants from that time up until today. I'm a witness to Franklinton Center as an international site of transformation, of hope, an international site that tells the story of a people who never gave up. I'm a witness to the power of a future that Franklinton Center has based on a rich legacy that was bequeathed from ancestors who worked and gave their best to build something better for all of us. I'm a witness. Yes, I'm a witness. I'm a witness for the Lord. And there at Franklinton Center, you can see the power of God that moved from slavery in North America until today. I am a witness indeed. Yes, I'm a witness. I'm a witness. And you ought to be a witness too. Amen.
You can get a witness from me anytime when it comes to Franklinton Center. And today we're asking you to be a witness too. It is so important that you understand that when the board of Franklinton Center adopted its new logo, which is the Sankofa, it really meant that we want to look back, but we are moving forward. That mythical bird with the egg in its mouth, with the newness of life. And so we're asking you to support the Franklinton Center at Bricks, not only because of its past and not only because of its future, but of its present, but because of its future. Franklinton Center at Bricks is doing wonderful and amazing things in its community. It is a social justice conference and retreat center. It's a center, though, that is rooted and grounded in a local community. As a former plantation, it has transformed now into an amazing community partner. We work in our local community with other nonprofits, with schools, the local municipalities, and we're working to make a difference in the lives of the people who live around us. Through your support, you will be literally feeding thousands of people through our 6-acre garden and orchard in which we grow tons of vegetables and fruits. We feed people right where they are. Not only that, we have a recently initiated broadband system that we're opening up to the local community. We're working with our schools to provide virtual learning, to support virtual learning on our campus where we hold an internet cafe. We're also working with local schools to build social justice champions in the schools through new courses such as civic engagement and social activism. We're asking you to engage with us, to support, to literally pour into the lives of men and women who are making a difference not only in their local community, but around the world.
If you'd like to contribute to our 150 YKD campaign, you can go to our website at Franklinton Center at Bricks and select Give, and you will be directed on how to make an online contribution. You can also send a check to Franklinton Center at Bricks, Inc. at P.O. Box 220, Whitakers, North Carolina, 27891. And thank you for your support.